Welcome to Spellweaver Deck Tech. This week we're taking a look at the order aspect with a deck centered around angels.
Toss the bucket.
So this week we're looking at the order aspect, and this deck is centered around angels. The idea was given to me by one of our live stream viewers, and I wanted to share that with you. After a week or so of playtesting, I've really vetted this deck out. It's changed a little bit over the course of time, but I think this is a pretty stable deck at this point. So the idea here is to use, we've got three different win conditions. First of all, you've got the Triangelica, which is a skill of the order aspect. Essentially, you have three angels on the board, and it's a 5-mana skill that creates an automatic win. This is not a consistent win per se, but it is a viable win option, and does come into play, I'd say, about 25% of the time. So there's that aspect. The standard win condition, of course, is to beat your opponent into submission, bring them down to 0 health. And this deck can also bring you up to 40 life, because it does have lifebound aspects as well. It deals with 9 angels, so the regular skill of this is the advanced, as a matter of fact, we'll look at it real quick so you can see it. This is the advanced order, if you will, Alexa Angelic Messenger, and her skill is Call to Heavens. So we do use this, we run 9 angels in this deck, and you have the ability to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and hopefully you pull out an angel and you can drop it on the board for 3 mana. Some of these angels are a little bit more expensive than that, so it does kind of work to your advantage. Back into the deck. The win conditions, like I stated, there's 3 different win conditions, and you've got some stall tactics in the beginning with Relic Guards. We run 4 Relic Guards. They're cheap. The 3 health is a pretty good sweet spot. It's not necessarily super easy to remove. There's a big difference between 2 health and 3 health. And it also has a 3 speed, so it can block pretty much everything. The 4 Sunblessed Priest that we run, these have a lifebound aspect. The 2/2 is a little bit weak. However, it does allow you to trade, and it does give you back some life as you're trying to establish your board control and move into a late game finish. Angelblessed Knights, I have 4 of these because they give you 1 order level. That's really great. Now, the 3 health makes them a little more survivable, but they're really there because they give you that extra order level, that boost, which allows you to pull out some of your extra skills. Protector of the Innocent. This is the first of the angels of the 3 types of angels that we run. It is a 4/4. It is flying, and it is vigilant. So vigilance is really cool because when you're on the defense, when you're blocking, this 2 speed becomes a 4 speed. Essentially, the Protector of the Innocent can block anything it throws at it. Whether or not it survives is a whole other story. There are 4 of those in this deck. 3 Guardians of the Faithful. Now, the Guardian of the Faithful is a little bit weaker, but it has a very special ability. We don't have Cataclysm, and we don't really have a board clear in this type of deck. However, we do have a Guardian of the Faithful, which, when you activate its power, destroys all attacking creatures. Now, keep in mind, this is only creatures that are attacking. It's not the entire enemy's board, but this is a very useful mechanic, especially when you're dealing with corruption decks and things that have a ton of zombies on the board. However, people are keen to this angel, and they do realize that if they attack with everything they have, you're just going to sack the angel, and they're going to lose everything. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game of sorts, but it does come in very handy, especially in the early game, if you can get one of these out and you're just getting swarmed and you need to have some presence. Because another interesting aspect of the Guardian of the Faithful, if you play this on the board and your opponent is aware that you can sacrifice this and they lose their entire attacking board, perhaps they won't attack with more than maybe 1 creature at a time. So the amount of damage you're taking is greatly reduced, and she still has a presence on the board, so it kind of works in 2 different ways. We run 2 of the Antriel, Patron of the Sunblessed. This is the legendary, which is flying. It is lifebound, and it gives all other creatures you control lifebound. So this is part of 2 different win conditions. 1, it gives you that 40 life potential, and 2, it's one of the 3 angels that you need. Now, they don't have to be 3 different angels. They can be 3 like angels. It really doesn't matter, but you have to have 3 angels to pull off the Triangelica. So she is very key to this deck, extremely powerful. Only a 2 speed, but honestly, that's not all that slow. A little bit expensive. This is one of those when you use Call to Heavens, if you can pull out an Antriel, it's much cheaper that way than to actually play her honest. Very key to this deck. So that covers the creatures on the order aspect. We have 2 other creatures that are from the nature aspect. And the reason why I chose Nature is because they're relatively cheap, and they help me with some removal, things like spells and artifacts, which was a big weakness with the Order deck as a monocolor. First is the Venerated Unicorn. We all know this is a 2/2 with a 3-speed. It's an okay body. It's not all that great, but it's, you know, it's decent. What we really run this for is because it is a presence on the board and it destroys an artifact or a spell. Restless Tombs, anyone? That's a huge spell that you really need to destroy. And Fae of Charm. Fae of Charm is one of our two, what I would call special cards in this deck. She is a tech card. She's not necessarily key to this deck. However, it really presents a difficult situation for your enemy when you play Fae of Charm, because anytime you attack, you get to use one of their opponents against them. So if they're buffing a really big creature, you can use that against them to help finish off the 20 life that you need to take away from them. Or, another interesting aspect is if you have a couple of attacking creatures and there's one creature that is buffed or is able to block the creatures that you will be attacking, you can use Fae of Charm to steal that creature, thus freeing up any potential roadblocks and push all that damage through. Like I said, it's a tech card. It's not necessary in this deck. This is one of my personal preferences. You can find an option to swap this out if you like, but I would wager that you should give Fae of Charm a try and see how it works out for you. I really like that card. Onto the spells. We have 3 Words of Grace. Word of Grace is, so there's 2 card draw mechanics. One, of course, is the Shrines. And the second that we use is Word of Grace in this deck. Word of Grace is really nice because not only do you get to draw a card, but you get 2 life for each of your order levels. So if you've got a couple of order levels proper, and then you've got some pseudo order levels with your Angelblessed Knights, 2 or 3, you're getting potentially 6 to 8 health when you play a Word of Grace, which is a cheap spell, don't cost 2 mana. But 6, 8 health, and you're drawing a card. So this is a really key card for this deck. And I really can't find a way to replace that, because sometimes you just need to cycle some cards, and it's another healing mechanism as well. Pacify. 3 Pacifies. Do be careful when you have Pacifies that you save 2 mana once your turn is over so that you can use Pacify. I can't remember how many times I've accidentally spent all my mana thinking, oh, I've got to Pacify, so when they attack, I'll just send them back to the owner's deck. Whoops, forgot about the mana cost there. However, this is a really great card, and assuming you know what you're doing much better than I do, and you always watch that mana, Pacify is really going to help protect you in the early stages of the game, and it also helps remove all those huge buffed creatures. The Path to Transcendence. This is our second special card, or tech card, in my opinion. A lot of decks make use of this card very well. The deck used to use Path of Transcendence as a very key card, but since it has changed some, it is not as key in this deck as it used to be. It does serve a really good purpose for something like putting Fae underneath, because the Fae of Charm, of course, is a 1/1. So she can be targeted by any spell and pretty much taken out immediately. And you don't need her for attacking, so what you can do is if you have Path of Transcendence up on the board, you put Fae underneath Path of Transcendence, she'll come back as a 2/2, but meanwhile, during your opponent's turn, she cannot be targeted. So when she comes back out, you can use her ability again, and you can just, again, save enough mana to use Path of Transcendence. But really, the reason why this is here is to move a creature away from... It's kind of like creature removal, except you're removing your own creatures. So you're removing them from the board so that they cannot be targeted. So anything that you need saved, move it under Path of Transcendence. And the other aspect is if there is a debuff, some type of weakness or something on one of your minions, one of your creatures, you can put it under Path of Transcendence. When it comes back out, it will no longer have that weakness debuff. However, keep in mind that this also works for positive, good buffs, such as mites and things. Those will be removed from, although Path of Transcendence does put its own might emblem on it. But if there are other beneficial buffs, keep in mind that if you put it under Path of Transcendence, when it comes back out, it will lose that. So something to keep in mind. 2 Tests of Time. These are here simply because it is the best card, as far as I'm concerned, in the game for removing artifacts and spells. Sometimes you just need to remove an artifact or a spell, and that's the only thing holding you back from winning. I've lost countless games trying to play just a mono deck where I had no artifact removal, I had no spell removal, and I was swarmed by artifacts or spells. basically Wisdom and Corruption. Yeah, I'm looking at you, you guys. Just absolutely annihilated me. So I added 2 of these along with the 2 Venerated Unicorns, and much greatly improved win ratio. And then, Tornado Outbreak. Now, this was a point of discussion in several of our live streams about the viability and the usability of something like Tornado Outbreak. Now, there's 3 different types of removal in the game. This is my least preferred method because it only returns the creature's owner to his or her hand. It doesn't destroy the creature, and it doesn't put it back in the deck. So if you put it back in someone's hand, they can just play it the next turn again. So this is why it's my least favorite. However, it does not mean it is not a useful card. It is extremely useful because, number 1, it's very cheap, and number 2, it can help with any creature that is vastly buffed beyond recognition, such as a Dominion deck that is playing a Experiment with a whole bunch of implants. I've seen them go as high as, 8, 10, 12 attack. It's just absolutely insane. Something like Tornado Outbreak will send it back and we'll have to start over again. It also is a stalling mechanism to prevent any mass amount of damage being taken before you can establish your board presence. The reason why this is here is because it is cheap and it helps us with the stall mechanism. We have enough creatures and we have enough spells to do the destruction later on of the enemy's creatures, cards. But in the early game, it's really key to have a few Tornado Outbreaks, and I found it absolutely invaluable in this particular style deck. So, other than that, we have shrines, 21 shrines. We have 2 Triangelicas, and I think you may or may not be aware, I only run 2 of special skill cards, because once you use that special skill, they no longer give you that card draw mechanic, and they're kind of a waste. So, 2 so that we can draw into it, but it is not the biggest win condition. We cannot depend on Triangelica, so we don't need more of them to try to make sure that we draw into them. But 2 is absolutely sufficient. 12 Order Shrines and 7 Nature Shrines. We don't have as many Nature cards. We don't need that many Shrines for Nature, and I tried to keep it at 60. And if you look at all the Nature cards that we have, none of them cost more than 1 Nature level. The rest of them are, Fae is the most expensive, but her other 2 requirements are 2 of another level. Well, we run Order anyway, and because we have things like Angelblessed Knight, it's pretty easy for us to meet the requirements for Fae of Charm. So, that wraps up this week's episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have an idea for a deck, go ahead and drop me a list with the deck and how it's played out, and I may feature your deck on next week's episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the boards.
Ready.